It's time to add some background around our horse's head. So I'm putting in a base coat of light blue-gray, 727.8 Rembrandt. I've cut it in half and sanded it, wiped it off, and I'm putting that down as a base color around the horse's head. We're going to add background around the horse's head and then finish the mane and pull it into the background. But we can't add those final hairs until we've added the background. Now I'm using my charcoal pencil to neaten up an edge. So I can use my pastel up on its end to get up close to the horse's face. But I'm lightly adding this layer, cross-hatching it as we go. Here on my painting, I used a piece of tape, just masking tape, to take that hair off. So I'm continuing to add the blue-gray, light blue-gray around the horse's head. I speeded this up a little bit so you wouldn't have to spend all day watching me do this, but I'm just adding a light layer, cross-hatching, of the light blue-gray. So I get in close around the horse's head. And now I have moved my horse up out of the picture plane a little bit, and I'm continuing to add color around him. Putting in that base so that we can add the colors of the background. Now the first color I'm going to use in our background is a gold. It is 231.5 Gold Ochre Rembrandt. And I chose this color because it is a complement of the blue that we used in the horse's body. When choosing a background, I like to go with a complementary color if possible. And I like to use analogous colors. Analogous colors are colors that are close to the main color on the color wheel. So if we're using blue, then different shades of blue and purple would work well with the colors of our horse. So I decided to use a complement to really bring the contrast around the horse's face. So that's why I started with the 231.5 Gold Ochre. So I'm continuing to add the gold ochre up around the horse's face and under his chin eventually too. I'm taking my time. As you can see, the texture of the background is still somewhat mottled. It will get more even as we add more colors. Don't be tempted to push harder with your pastel to fill in the tooth of the paper. Just trust the process that by adding more layers, we're going to get a smoother appearance. So now I'm adjusting the horse, moving it down, so I can continue with the gold around the horse's face. And now I'm going to add another color. This is 505.8 Ultramarine Blue Light. So I'm adding it into the background. We're going to mix several colors here. By using the blue over the gold, I get a gray color that I couldn't achieve any other way. When you mix two colors together optically by putting the blue over the gold, it gets a lovely gray. And now we're going to add some greens. This is a 627.3, a Cinnabar Green Deep. It's a blue green. I love this color. So we're putting it in. We're going to create this lovely background for our horse to live in. And I want to add some more colors. So I have, what's happened is I've gone and sanded my green. This green is stubborn just like that dark blue, so I had to sand it to get some of the color to come off. It will build up a dark skin and color will not come off. So I have sanded it and wiped it, and now I am using it to color in that area. Now we're going to add another green. This is 626.5 Cinnabar Green Light. So since it's a 0.5 Rembrandt color, that means it's the true hue of Cinnabar Green Light. If it goes up 0.3, it means black has been added. If it goes higher in number, like 0.7 or 8, it means white has been added. But this is the true hue. Now I'm going over it again with the gold ochre, kind of blending the colors together. And I'm going to come over with the blue, the ultra blue light. It has a little more white in it. It's a 0.8, and so that helps the colors to blend together too. And now a little more green, dark green. Just pushing the color into the paper now because it is a hard color. So I had to go sand it again. And then adding more. This time I'm using the blue-gray. It works as a kind of a blender for all the colors together. So that's the 727.8. And now the gold again. So you can see I'm going back and forth between the colors for the background. I don't have a lot of colors that I'm using in the background, but I'm switching back and forth until I get that I'm looking for a variegated background for this particular subject. I'll just let you continue to watch as I add those same few colors back and forth in the background. I will tell you that we're only going to add background right now around the horse's head. We will deal with the background in the lower part of the painting when we complete that part of the horse. So I'm just working right now in the upper portion around the horse's head. And now I'm adding another color. This is the Mars Violet. I had a piece that was broken in half, the 538.5 Mars Violet, to add this dark brown. And I'm going to blend it in by adding green on top of it. So I let one color blend in another color. But we wanted to darken it, especially towards the edges of the painting and the corners, because we don't want the viewer's eye to be led out of the painting from white spots. So I'm using my 626.5 green and the darker green. And I like the way this is looking. So we built up quite a few layers here, and it's looking very nice. And more gold ochre. The gold ochre is going to bring the focus right into the horse's face because it's the complement of that blue, as I told you earlier. I do use my fingers to kind of push things in, and as you build up layers, you can kind of do that. I don't use any other things to blend with. I don't use brushes or stumps or anything like that. So now I'm moving to the upper part of the painting and repeating the same colors. I move the painting down a little bit lower so you can see what I'm doing. I'm using all the same colors that I was using in the lower part of the painting. And I'm also using a little bit of that hard 508.5 Prussian blue. I added a little bit of that there. I like the way that looks. So I'm going to leave it and continue to work on things as I notice them. Okay, I'm dulling down. I'm adding a little blue-gray over the gold. Take it down a little bit, add a little bit lighter color. So I'm going to continue to work around the horse's head. Now that I've got that nice and smooth, I'm going to add some of our gold, 231.5 gold ochre, around the back side of the horse's head and over his back. The gold is going to show through all the other colors that we add. It's really our predominant background color. That dark green, the one that's really hard, the 627.3 Cinnabar Deep. And as you can see, it's made some pretty ugly marks on my paper. I'm having a little trouble with that. But I'm going to keep working, and by adding other layers, it's going to smooth out. I'm continuing to build color in the background on this left side of the painting. So I'm going over that dark green that was pretty uneven with some lighter green, the 626.5, and you can see that's kind of helped even things out. So I'm just going to continue using the same colors to build a background. So I'm going to just let you guys watch. Now you can see I'm using that great blue. It's a relatively cool blue, the Ultra Blue Light 505.8. It's one of my favorite colors. I like to use in lots of backgrounds. Now I'm going to add some of that Mars Violet, the 538.5, to darken that corner of the background, just like we darkened the other side of the painting. So I'm using light pressure and just cross-hatching up into that dark green area of the painting, and I'm going to rub it in with my fingers. Here I'm putting a little green over the Mars Violet that I just applied. I just go back and forth with the different colors until it looks like what I wanted to. This again is the Mars Violet. And so you can change your background to suit whatever you'd like. If you'd like it to be more green, add more green. Or if you want it to be more blue, add more blue. I wanted a light, airy background that my horse could live in. So I'm going to add a little green up in the corners. As I told you, maybe a little out of camera shot, but you want to keep your corners darker so that the viewer's eye is not led out of the painting. I also wanted this to look like it had a woodsy background, but I didn't want the whole dark trees thing. I wanted it to be more light and airy. I'm adding a little more green down around the lower part of the painting. I'm using that lighter green color, 626.5. I'm going to move my painting up a little bit now, and you can see that I'm going to add some dark green now to that area. Smooth that out. And so I add a little green, then I'll add a little gold, and then a little blue. Mixing it together, getting a nice variegated background. You may choose to add your colors in different amounts, and that's entirely up to you. This should be your painting. The harder colors, which in this case are the 508.5 Prussian blue and the dark green, 627.3, are very hard, so they'll help push in those softer colors. Now I'm adding some 538.5 Mars Violet, darkening that area. We talked about that before to keep the eye from moving out of the picture plane. And putting a little gold over that to kind of modify it. So even though you can't really technically mix colors with pastel, you can alter colors by putting one layer over the other and create different colors. Now we're back up to the head of the horse. Now I'm going to work on the head of the horse, on the mane specifically. Since we've added the background color around the top of the head, we can now finish the mane and draw fine hairs out into the background. It's easier to draw them into the background than it is to try to put the background in between. So I'm using my 6B charcoal pencil to draw in a few hairs of the mane, pulling them out into the background. Now I've got my glassine sheet down to protect my artwork while I do this. Now I'm going to add some purple, 536.3 violet, to the mane. I can lay these colors, kind of glaze them over to effect a color change in places where I want to. I love this about pastel. It's very similar to oil paint in that way. Now I'm going to continue to add lighter hairs with the 211 white NuPastel. And I'm using the sharp edge of the stick, holding it at a 45-degree angle to my paper. I can also draw with the corners, which is what I'm doing here, and then switching back to the sides. So with the corner, I can draw these little curly hairs that you see me doing, the wavy ones. And with the side, I can get a straighter, longer hair. Gone back to using the 6B. And the black NuPastel, building some darks. This is just a good time to take your time, put on some music, and carefully work on your picture and enjoy it. Don't rush through this process. You can see I'm using the flat edge of the black NuPastel to draw hairs. And the NuPastel makes them quite a bit darker than the 6B charcoal. So, and I think you can see that fairly well. They're very, very dark compared to the charcoal pencil. Going to work further down here as I start down towards the bottom of the mane where we haven't done very much work yet. So we're going to have to put in these darks. I really like the way this mane is looking. Let's speed this up just a little bit. During this segment, I'm just going to be using the black NuPastel to add those darks in the mane and to draw out those hairs. And now I'm going to add more light hairs with the 211 NuPastel. I keep more than one 211 and 299 on my table at all times, and I keep them sharp. You can see here I'm changing direction a little bit, adding a curl. See, I got a little too much there, so I can erase that with the black NuPastel. A little glitch in that, too much white, so I can take that out. So now I'm just going to draw a few white hairs into the background, lighter hairs. But if I keep two or three of the lighter colors sharp, then I don't have to stop what I'm doing. I can continue, just switch off to another pastel. Here I've decided I need a little more white on the face. So while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and add that. Let's create a little more drama on the face of the horse. I'm just pushing it in with the side of the pastel. So I've let my pastel get dull for this purpose because I'm not adding little sharp hairs. I'm using it just in a dull fashion to apply color, but not necessarily little fine sharp hairs. And back to adding black hairs. We won't be able to do too much with the lower part of the mane until we add in the back of the horse. I'm going to speed this part up a little bit. I'm just using the black to add darks to the back of the horse. And then we'll go back to adding a few light colors. I'm continuing to add the lighter highlighted hairs into the mane. I'm using a 299 NuPastel, and I'm varying the direction and the curl of the hair to give more interest to the mane, which is the crowning glory of this horse. I don't want everything to be just the same, so I'm going to take some of these lighter hairs and curl them downward, curl them in towards the horse's neck. It looks quite lovely. I'm very pleased with the way this is turning out. And you can see I'm rotating the stick in my hand, being very precise with these. So I'm checking my stick, looking for a sharp edge. And using the corner to draw them and curve them around. Still adjusting the color, putting some 538.5 into that shadow area, adding a little Mars Violet there. It adds interest to that area. And I'm going to darken it down a little bit with the black and put some hairs back in there. I'm going to use my charcoal pencil to pull out some hairs, kind of fill in the mane, make it thicker, more luxurious. I can also use it to kind of carve out lighter hairs. Now I need something darker in this area, so I'm going back to the 229 NuPastel. Using my pencil to make this a little more solid in this area. I'm using my 211 to add some brighter hair. So as you can see, I go back and forth between the dark and the light until I get it just like I want. Thank you for joining me for part 3 of The Horse in Pastel. Join me for part 4, where we finish up the mane and the back of the horse.